So the old Burning Man headquarters on Market Street in San Francisco. Oh, it sold last week. Yeah. Down about 90%. In 2016, it was purchased for $62 million. Last week, $6.5 million. That's a huge drop. That's a massive drop. 90%, even for San Francisco. Let's get into it. What's the dealio? Here we go. Let's find out. Watch a little video that kind of gives background story on exactly where we sit with crime and other street conditions in the Tenderloin. Here we go.
Tonight, San Francisco is facing a new federal lawsuit. It claims the Tenderloin is being treated like a containment zone for drug activity and that the city tolerates encampments in poor conditions. As NBC Bay Area's Christy Smith explains, a group of Tenderloin neighbors and businesses is behind legal action.
The conditions in the Tenderloin are at the center of a new lawsuit. 2 hotels and several residents are suing the city, saying leaders have done very little to address the long-running drug and homelessness issues. We spoke with lawyer Matthew Davis about the allegations.
That the city has for years treated the Tenderloin as the containment zone for narcotics activity and associated harms with that, and that conditions have gotten much worse in recent years. Maybe in part due to the fentanyl crisis. The current state of the Tenderloin is, for my clients and other people who live or work in the neighborhood, the sidewalks and public spaces are unsanitary, unsafe, and inaccessible.
Today, this is what it looked like near one of the hotels who filed suit. The plaintiffs aren't seeking monetary damages. They want a judge to force the city to take action. We spoke with the mayor today about some of the steps the city has already taken.
One of the things that I'm really proud of is what we've been able to do to a certain extent, deal with the challenges in the daytime, especially in UN Plaza and other parts of the Tenderloin. We're seeing some improvements.
She admits nighttime remains a challenge, but they have redirected resources.
In some instances, we're able to redirect resources, and in working with the Drug Enforcement Agency and the U.S. Attorney's Office, they've been able to step in and be a significant source, in addition to the California Highway Patrol, where a lot of our focus is on the Tenderloin community and at night.
She said they have reduced the number of tents. The suit wasn't the only legal action the city was hit with today. Separately, a motion was filed on behalf of the UC College of the Law San Francisco to enforce a stipulated injunction requiring the city to make reasonable efforts to eliminate homeless encampments. The city attorney's office said in regard to the lawsuit filed today, in part, they would review the complaint and that the city is making progress disrupting drug markets and addressing homelessness while complying with the preliminary injunction issued in the Coalition on Homelessness case. Adding it is clear that increased litigation over homelessness is not improving conditions on our streets. The courts are not equipped to police every interaction between outreach workers and unhoused individuals. In San Francisco, Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
So the mayor, London Breed, she's under pressure. You gotta perform, Mayor London Breed. You gotta do something because what you got going on isn't working. So you've got this narrative. You've got these lawsuits happening. Group of businesses and individuals are basically telling the city of San Francisco, you got to give us basic public safety. You know, we got to be able to come in and out of these buildings, got to be able to walk around, not have the sidewalks absolutely covered up, not have drugs just running 24/7, not having stolen goods 24/7. So Mayor London Breed, she's saying, well, we've cleaned it up during the day. At night, still kind of a wreck. Everybody's, in agreement on that. But meanwhile, as the city's trying to claim that things are better, here's the proof of the pudding. Is it getting better? Hell no. Yeah, maybe a scooch during the day. But if that were the case, this building here that we're going to talk about, it wouldn't be down 90% in value, would it? No, that's a massive, massive drop. That is a huge drop. And some of that can be blamed upon the whole work from home, don't need to have as many employees in the office anymore, don't need to have all that workspace. And for these buildings, which are, office space for companies that are no longer centered in San Francisco, they can work remotely for, wherever. Well, that brings values down because people aren't renting out office space. And when you've got what is it, 30 something million square feet available in San Francisco, and you've got a vacancy rate that's rapidly approaching 40%. You want to buy a building? Hey, world's your oyster in San Fran. Let's get to rating this one. And you know what? Before we do that, let's take a look. I want you to see on the map exactly where this is. Here is 955 Market Street. The hotel we were talking about, the first hotel they were talking about in one of those lawsuits, it's located kind of, let me give you one of these bad boys. All right. How about that yellow thing? I think that hotel was somewhere right in here, and the Best Western is also right in there. So here's your Tenderloin. Here's an office building that we're talking about. Here's Union Square. That's where all the shopping, all the businesses have gone out of business. They have relocated elsewhere. So this whole area here is just a train wreck. It's just a rolling train wreck. There's no other good way to put it. The 955 Market Street building that was once home to Burning Man headquarters. Whew, exciting there, right? Then a whole bunch of WeWork offices. And is WeWork still in business? I know they went through all kinds of lawsuits and crazy stuff. It's now empty and just sold for a measly 10% of the price it fetched in 2016. You got 8 years. This thing has just absolutely plummeted. Let's look back to the days of 2016 when the 16-story office building at 995 Market Street was on the market for sale, drawing the San Francisco Business Times headline, WeWork's mid-market landlords prepare to cash in. The Burning Man office headquarters, called BlackRock LLC, had once been a tenant, as was the Eviction Defense Collaborative. But WeWork had pretty much taken over the whole building, and the place ended up selling for $62 million in 2016, with marketing materials from 2015 calling it San Francisco's most sought-after and dynamic sub-market. Now it would be marketed as a diamond in the rough, a fixer waiting to happen. Great city location, tough, immediate urban location with extensive upside potential. They wouldn't say tough. They'd just say urban site waiting to be developed further. Something like that, right? You're going to have to spin this somehow, and it's not going to be an easy spin because, the sidewalk settings that we saw at the beginning of the video that we just watched, you got that all up and down there. This is arguably San Francisco's worst neighborhood and worst portion of a street in San Francisco, period. You've just got shenanigans happening all over. And at night, yeah, it's not good. And that's what a lot of the residents are basically saying is, yeah, it's gotten a little bit better during the day, but when that afternoon, the shift of police officers goes away and it just goes right back to, this wild, wild west. You sell anything you want, drugs, stolen goods, people, you name it. Nobody wants to have an office building around there. Nobody wants to have a commercial building that they're going to try and hire out, have people walk down the sidewalk. Hey, let's do a little walk of the neighborhood, neighborhood review where you walk around. It's not going to cut it, is it? Those folks aren't going to get out of their car. Now, bottom feeders are, and that's essentially who bought this, right? But it's kind of the actual sale at $6.5 million. It's kind of this little bit of a tangled web here. Yeah, about that most sought after part, you're going to make fun of being sought after. This is submarket. 8 years later, that now empty building just sold for a mere $6.5 million in an auction proceeding last week, according to the San Francisco Business Times. Yes, that is nearly a 90% haircut on that 2016 price. It was back last December when the building's owner, Bridgeton Holdings, went into default on their $45 million loan on the 90,000 square foot office building. The Business Times reports that Florida-based L&R Partners was the fire sale price buyer and that L&R Partners has been the special servicer on that loan. So what happens when a building, for you commercial guys or residential guys who follow this storyline, what happens is when a building goes into default or, a property goes into default, single family goes into default, oftentimes they will bring in a special servicer. That is somebody who is brought in to work with the entity that owns the property, see if they can figure something out. because all of a sudden that property, since it's in default, it goes from being a property to something less than that. And all of a sudden it's in play to probably go through some kind of foreclosure or short sale or whatever. But they bring in a special servicer. So the special servicer on this one ended up buying out at foreclosure, ended up buying this property. Haven't been able to find out the exact details on kind of the background story there, but it's probably much of what you would think was somebody servicing the thing, looked at it and went, okay, it's still got this much cash flow or potential to, even if we rent out a quarter of the space, it's going to make X, Y, Z. We could make that pencil at $6.5 million all day long. Yeah. I mean, that's a steal. That is an absolute bargain. That's what it's taking to move some of these properties because they are so down and out. Now, we don't, the media and San Francisco has been, their big thing has been, there's so much negativity towards San Francisco on this doom loop thing. And yes, there is a lot of negative coverage because the things that are happening in San Francisco that create a situation where values plummet like this, they're bad. They're not good. They're horrible, right? You've got people living willy-nilly wherever, taking a poop on the sidewalk. When you've got a poop map, for your city. Loved it when Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, he brought up the poop map with his in his debate with Bro Cream. That's Gavin Newsom, Gruesome Newsom. So this was likely them foreclosing on the place, which one would imagine they'll just resell it if and when the real estate market comes back a bit. Take it over, lease it out, and you got a million different options. If you have purchased a building at $6.5 million and it's got, what do we say, 90,000 square feet, it's not going to take a genius to run those numbers and go, oh, I think we can make that work. Even if you've got, 100 dudes out front all taking a dump at once simultaneously, you can work something out. You'll be able to figure something out because a lot of what's going on with San Francisco is pricing got so high that with the drop in demand for commercial space, these numbers didn't make sense. And interest rates at where we are now versus where they were in 2016, different drill, right? Different drill. As for Bridgeton Holdings, they're not going under. The Chronicle reports in their piece about the sale of 995 Market that Bridgeton had just partnered to buy up the former home of Eventbrite at 410 Townsend Street, also at a massive 75% discount over its previous sale price. So you will see this. You will see this time and time and time again. Big company that comes in, swoops in, buys a bunch of properties, and then the market takes them to town and they got to give some up. Well, they'll give that one up, but then at the same time, they're in the property business. So they're going to go buy another one at a massive discount, rinse, repeat, and then they get in better shape, right? They drop the one, and take a whack to their credit, whatever. They got enough cash to make it go on another one, or they partner up. And it says they just partnered to buy up the former home of Eventbrite at a massive 75% discount. So if you're in the commercial real estate business, it's buying time in San Francisco. 90% off. You see those sales for those ongoing like furniture sales, 60% off, 70% next week, 80% the week after. Well, this is an actual 90% off sale. Given the remarkable discount, some will wonder why the city of San Francisco didn't just scoop it up. But given that the buyer, L&R Partners, effectively auctioned it to themselves, it's not certain that the low $6.5 million price would have been available to other buyers. I would say it is. If it went through a legit foreclosure process and it was auctioned, you got to have stipulations in there for anybody to buy it, unless as the servicer, they're able to work something out in there. In that case, it wouldn't have really been auctioned off. But I don't know the actual mechanism of what happened with the transfer on this building. But the fact that it's down, it's down 90%, that just doesn't surprise me because this is one of the worst locations out there. We've seen discounts of 60%, 70%, not uncommon, over 50 fairly often. And what that is that's a measurement from when, 8 years ago, things were wildly different. Tenderloin's always been a tough area, but it wasn't as out of control as it is now. It's just gotten, increasingly worse. And that's why you've got, residents and you've got hotels and you've got, you got the law school, San Francisco Law School, basically suing the city to say, hey, provide us very basic, clean sidewalks. Give us that. Give us no open air drug dealing in front of our buildings. Give us that. Give us no poop on the sidewalk. Give us that. Just the absolute basic necessities. Give us that and we'll go away. They're not asking for money. They're asking for performance, which is City of San Francisco to basically do their job, which clearly at the point in time right now, they're not doing. So, and the city has been making aggressive moves to buy downtown properties lately. They bought the former Zendesk headquarters 1 block away last August, and their lease deal with an option to buy at the former Uber headquarters was just passed by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors Tuesday afternoon. They know this stuff is a bargain. It's a deal. Hold it long enough, you're going to do really well. The problem is unless you're in that marketplace already, you probably don't want to step into the Tenderloin because it's kind of an unknown quantity. All right, what are we dealing with here? It's got a bunch of nut jobs pooping on the sidewalk, doing their thing, selling their drugs, selling their stolen goods. That's not an environment that everybody wants to jump into, right? So when I was watching the video on, the entities, the attorney talking about, here's what we want. We want all the homeless encampments taken away. All right. So those are whacked out people that have mental issues that are on drugs combination. You've got a bunch of criminals, street level criminals that are slinging the drugs. You got a bunch of people buying and selling stolen goods, stealing from the local communities, because that's kind of how this goes. Because that's the currency to use to purchase the drugs. Now, where are those people going to go? Are you going to, if they're off the streets, like the lawsuits are asking for, where have those folks gone? Where did the city of San Francisco put those people? These people do not want to be in housing. They don't want to be in treatment. They just want to do what they've become accustomed to, which is this lifestyle here. This is what they do. This is their thing. And that's why they won't go away. And that's why during the day, you can have cop after cop after cop come through and, tell them, shoo them away, arrest a handful of them. But unless you're doing that 24/7, which San Francisco is not doing, then these folks are just going to come back and occupy this area. So anybody who purchases in this area knows that this is going to be a long play because there's no immediate solutions. If you want to try and arrest your way out, hey, I'm all for that. And San Francisco has already kind of gone down that route, and it hasn't had a huge impact. What we've been hearing and what folks are saying is that, yes, it has an impact during the day. The numbers are way better in the day. But at night, it is still just a free-for-all. And you've still got that same criminal element. And you've got people that are just whacked out of their mind, living in that community, whether it's right there on Market Street or a block off, wherever it might be. These people aren't going anywhere. And unless you put them in a psychiatric institution or treatment somewhere because they miraculously just want to get better, this is a long-term problem that there really is no, easy solution for the city to look at. They've created these situations, city of Seattle, Portland, LA, any city that has just said, homeless, we're okay with that. Any city that's allowed that, this is the whole kit and caboodle that they get with that scenario. They get just a bunch of shenanigans on the daily and evening. So anybody who buys, they're going to be dealing with this for a while because the Tenderloin's always been bad, right? It's kind of like Skid Row. It's just, it talked about containment, meaning, all right, we've got a whacked out guy with the sword running around chasing people. He's got no shirt on and barely has his pants tucked up. Let's dump him in the Tenderloin. You're talking that kind of containment, or you're, dump them in Skid Row. Literally, police have been dumping people in Skid Row for 4 or 5 decades, something like that. Since the 50s, I think it is. All right, here's your zone. It's called the zoo. Now it's known as Skid Row. Here's the zone. You stay in there. You can do whatever the F you want. You come out here, we'll arrest you. So, the residents of the Tenderloin are basically stating, you guys have made this a containment area. We're in the containment area, and we want you to clean it up. So how do you think that's going to go? Yeah, probably not all that great. So expect shenanigans in the Tenderloin for the near future, for the medium future, and we're down the road quite some time, because it's going to take something extremely drastic to really roll these numbers back. And by that, I mean, you're going to have to take a whole bunch of people who are mentally ill and on drugs, and you're going to have to move them and get them into some other kind of scenario where they're not going to be real pleased, because San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, LA, you've all given these people the run of the city. They've taken it, and now you're going to take it back? Not quite so easy, right? No, that's going to be a hard go. And that ultimately is why you have a discount of nearly 90% on something that sold for over 60 million 8 short years ago. That's a crazy drop in value. And it just kind of indicates, all right, in order to get this sold, because, these sales have to meet certain scrutiny. They can't just be, we'll take it for $1. It's got to be somewhat reasonable. And reasonable now has just found a new low in San Francisco. And that's a 90% drop, meaning, that's damn near worthless. It's almost worthless relative to what it sold for, not that long ago. 2016. Remember what you were doing in 2016? I do. Wasn't that long ago. My memory isn't that bad because I'm old, right? It's just not. So moving forward, anybody that can buy these properties and hold on, and even if you get just a little bit of, difference in street conditions, you're going to be able to rent out some of that space and, the world's your oyster, right? No, you've got to be a special buyer to want to take something down in the Tenderloin right now. Different skill set, right? Property management, just a different drill. But there's lots of buildings in the Tenderloin that are still operating, still making a little bit of cash flow. This is one of them, and it's down 90%. Moving forward, will we see much more than that? I don't think so, right? That's so much off of your existing, once desirable, sub-market within San Francisco. Crazy times, shenanigans for days. All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit the like button if you like this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.